Pep Guardiola could leave Manchester City. Soon. The end of an era may be closer than it seems. Reports circulating today across European media suggest that Pep Guardiola could be approaching the end of his time at Manchester City sooner than many expected. While there has been no official confirmation, the growing volume and consistency of these reports indicate that this is no longer idle speculation, but a scenario the club is actively preparing for. Guardiola's contract runs until 2027, yet insiders increasingly point to a possible departure in the near future, potentially as early as the end of the current cycle. After nearly a decade at the Etihad, the sense is that both the manager and the club may be approaching a natural turning point. A dynasty that redefined English football. Since arriving in Manchester in 2016, Guardiola has not simply won trophies. He has redefined how Manchester City and much of the Premier League play football. League titles, domestic dominance, and the long-awaited Champions League triumph cemented his reign as the most successful in the club's history. City did not just win. They controlled games, imposed rhythm, and forced opponents to adapt. Guardiola built a machine where positional play, tactical flexibility, and relentless standards became the norm. Over time, that identity became inseparable from the club itself. But prolonged success also brings a unique challenge. How long can the same voice, the same intensity, and the same ideas continue to drive evolution? Why the timing feels different now? The recent reports are not rooted in a single incident or poor run of form. Instead, they point to a gradual shift in perspective, both from Guardiola and from the club's hierarchy. After years of rebuilding squads, reinventing roles, and constantly raising the bar, there is a growing belief that Guardiola may feel he has completed his mission in Manchester. He has often spoken in the past about the mental and emotional toll of long-term projects and about the importance of knowing when to step away before stagnation sets in. From the club's side, Manchester City are understood to be quietly planning for continuity beyond Guardiola, a sign not of dissatisfaction, but of realism. No era lasts forever, even the most successful ones. Manchester City and the need for a succession plan. Behind the scenes, City are believed to be working on a long-term succession strategy. This does not mean Guardiola is being pushed out, but rather that the club recognises the importance of stability once he does leave. The next manager will inherit one of the most tactically sophisticated squads in Europe, but also one shaped entirely in Guardiola's image. Replacing such a figure is not about finding a better coach, that is almost impossible, but about finding the right one to guide the next phase. In this context, it is no surprise that Enzo Maresca is increasingly mentioned inside football circles as a potential long-term option. The former Manchester City assistant is seen as a coach who understands Guardiola's principles from the inside. Positional play, control through possession and tactical discipline, while also bringing his own ideas and personality. Sources suggest that enthusiasm around Maresca's profile has quietly grown, not as an immediate replacement, but as part of Manchester City's broader succession thinking. His knowledge of the club's structure and philosophy is viewed as a key advantage should Guardiola eventually decide to step away. City's challenge will be to evolve without losing the identity that made them dominant. Guardiola's legacy is already secure. Whether Guardiola leaves soon or sees out his contract, his legacy at Manchester City is untouchable. He turned a powerful club into a historic one, setting standards that may not be matched for years. More importantly, he changed expectations. Winning became routine. Control became non-negotiable. Excellence became the baseline. That is why the possibility of his departure feels so significant. Not because of fear, but because it marks the end of a chapter that reshaped English football. What happens next? For now, Guardiola remains fully focused on the present. Training sessions, tactical tweaks, and relentless demands continue as usual. Publicly, nothing has changed. But football history shows that the loudest transitions often begin quietly. If Guardiola does decide that the time is right, Manchester City will face their biggest test since his arrival. Not on the pitch, but on the touchline. One thing is certain. When Pep Guardiola eventually leaves Manchester City, he will not just leave behind trophies. He will leave behind an era.